First, they came for American comics, and now they're coming for manga. Yes, Blackstone, one of these big DEI investment firms, these hedge funds from America. It's not the same as BlackRock, but you can hear the similarities. It's a lot of the same investors involved. Have bought a major manga-producing company for $1.7 billion. What are they trying to do to Japan? This is obviously some kind of agenda play. And we're going to get into the news here in just a moment. Very scary stuff for manga fans. My name is John Delarose. I'm a #1 best-selling comic creator, and I've got a project coming up on Kickstarter, The Hidden Emperor. This is awesome stuff. If you like great comics the way they used to be, classic storytelling, classic heroism, this is going to be the book for you. It's a follow-up to my 2022 major hit, Overmind, the best comic I've ever sold so far. And I think we've hit it out of the park here. So I'm going to be launching this in about 10 days, and I would love for you to sign up to click Notify Me on launch. And this link's going to be in the description below for you to check out. And thank you guys for supporting the channel, supporting our artistic efforts as we cover what's going on in mainstream comics and the world here. So over the last decade, American corporations have destroyed the comic industry, as we know, with diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. It crept into everything in the mid-2010s, with Marvel Comics replacing nearly all of its beloved characters with minority or female variants. I actually came to prominence at this point. I wrote up an article for The Federalist in 2017 about this and how comic shops were complaining back then that their sales were just dying because there was no Spider-Man book with Peter Parker in it. It was Miles Morales. There was no Thor book with Thor in it. It was Jane Foster. There was no Iron Man book with Iron Man in it. It was Riri Williams. And there was no Captain America. Captain America had been turned into a literal Nazi villain at the time, too. So you literally had nothing to root for in Marvel Comics. It was a complete disaster. This is also when they were bringing in, Captain Marvel, Carol Manvers, and Ms. Marvel, the Muslim, and America Chavez to try to force this crazy diversity agenda on everybody. Now, these were initiatives from Disney. That came down, and these initiatives were funded, it turns out, by a group that was affiliated with Hillary Clinton. I'm dead serious. So the Clinton Foundation funded this group to actually put in Muslim Americans into things and all that, and there was a VP of content creation who was hired at the time to do this stuff, who got funding from this corporation, who was then inserted into Disney, and the rest is history. So it's all tied in. If you think this stuff's not tied in politically, you're crazy at this point. It absolutely is. And one thing that's been a thorn in the side of both the industry and, of course, all entertainment is manga and anime. The Japanese culture is very insular. They're not diverse and inclusive. It's Japanese for Japan. And so the American corporations have seen this, and they've seen how popular it is. Everything that comes out to America is making tons of money. And so, of course, they want to subvert it at this point. They want to do the exact same thing they did to Marvel and DC. I didn't even get into DC and all the gay stuff they've done over the last couple of years. They turned Superman gay. They made Robin bisexual. They made Hawkgirl gay. They made Wonder Woman bisexual. I don't think there is a DC character who's not gay anymore. We've covered the Alan Scott Green Lantern thing at length. This is all a big agenda. Now, what's interesting to me is Japan actually has shifted a lot of their content over the last few years to be very centered around the nuclear family. One of the most popular manga out there is called Spy Family, and that became an anime, which is also very popular. And it's all about creating a nuclear family and raising kids and making it cool to raise kids. And this is because Japan has a population crisis. Japan is dwindling. They're not reproducing over there, and so the government is actually going in and telling these manga companies to, hey, step this up so that we can encourage people to have more babies through content. And so this is what governments do. They produce propaganda based on the values they want to instill in culture. And our corpo government in America, which is for the Blackstone, by the Blackstone, right? And with the Blackstone and BlackRock and Vanguard, they really run everything that comes through culture. So all the DEI stuff ends up coming through these companies and starts being pitched by them, and they strong arm movie studios and the like into this stuff. Now, it's not very hard to do because they've spent the last couple of decades replacing anybody who's normal with these like kind of crazy political people in these companies. And that's what we're going to see happening with Japan now. They see a giant market here. And there's already an article on Bloomberg saying it's a great investment and urging more funds to go buy into manga and anime companies in Japan too. So you can see a concerted effort from the media and from these corporations in order to do this. Now, 1.7 billion is a majority stake in this, and the company's called Infocom. Infocom runs a website called Mecha Comics, and despite it being called Mecha Comics, it is mostly a site that has mostly content geared towards women, and this is intentional, and this is why they bought this one. The business model of this is they have kind of microtransactions. You buy a chapter at a time for a cheap amount, and you keep getting your manga fixes as they come along. And they have a huge market cap, about $3 billion. So this is something that they're doing intentionally. And if you get into the meat of what's being said by the people at Blackstone here, they'll tell you exactly what it is. The more original content we have, the more we can monetize the intellectual property over time. So they're actually going to be injecting funds into this to create original content. And they're going to be pushing these properties that are, again, geared towards women. Now, why you'll be like, well, there's always been comics geared towards women. Yes, there have. But if you look at America, this is exactly what they did with the properties here. They took every property out there, and there was already robust women's fiction. If you look at romance novels, they're the biggest selling category on Amazon. And those are typically the books that are bestsellers in fiction. But they said, you know what, that's not enough. Like, men like sci-fi, men like action. We're going to turn those into women's fiction too. And we're going to put female leads in it. It all started kind of with Buffy the Vampire Slayer on TV. And then the strong female lead thing became a trope everywhere, right? And so they intentionally replaced all their characters. And this is what happened with Marvel and all that, right? You start to get these Avengers teams that don't look like the Avengers anymore, right? And then we're getting this in the MCU as well. Every character is now getting kind of replaced. So it's trickling into film, trickling into TV. It's trickling into video games. And so this is the agenda 100%. And the reason to do this is they want to remove masculinity from culture here in America. So when they do this in Japan, they're going to want to do the same thing. And they're going to want to downplay the men's manga, and they're going to want to upplay this until only this remains. And that's exactly what they do with their original content. They do shift the culture with this. This isn't a conspiracy. This isn't rage bait or anything. This is what BlackRock and Blackstone and Vanguard do to everything. They invested in Warhammer 40K, and they started pushing female space marines. It's 100% an agenda, and that's why they're doing this here. He further says we can create animation or merchandising around that. Once they do that, of course, it just creates the same cycle of content again, which is going to be the potential opportunity in the midterm. So the agenda is on full display here, guys. They bought this company. They're going to be pushing this out. They're going to be mining the content of these manga studios for American TV and the like. And they're going to be pushing the feminist agenda first. Obviously, manga's also got a very... People talk about manga all the time, how it's very different. Yes, there's some manga out there that's pretty good. Free Run's a really good manga, for example. We review that on the channel here. But there's a lot of degenerate content out there, too. A lot of... if you went to Barnes & Noble during Pride Month and go to their manga section, they were just hemorrhaging the walls with, like, gay and lesbian manga fiction. It's a much bigger percentage of what they got in Japan than it is here. And manga people don't like to talk about that very much, but it is. There's been a lot of degeneracy pushed for a long, long time. And I think that these companies in America see this, and they see an opportunity to dupe the people who are kind of the centrists, who are like, I'm not fully anti-woke. They're conspiracy theorists, and I like my consuming. And they're going to try to move them over and move the Overton window further with the manga content once they've feminized everything as well. So pretty obvious what's going on here as a play. Manga is no longer safe. They are going the way of the American comic. And this is what happens. I mean, corporations exploit one market, they mine it to death. They do their thing with it, and then they move on to the next market. And this is one of the few markets that has not been controlled by American corporations as far as entertainment goes for a long time. Now, Japan very well might push back on this. You never know. When they hear that Americans are coming in and manipulating their culture, the Japanese tend to act. But we'll be covering that, and we'll see what happens in the future. For now, this is a very bad sign. Leave a comment down below with what you think about this. Hit the like and subscribe button. Make sure to check out The Hidden Emperor on Kickstarter coming soon. We'll be back soon.